A brass scale ticked once on the dockmaster desk. Halden Moss looked up from his ledger as a long shadow crossed the glass behind him. The counterweight rose above his shoulder. 40 minutes later, a cruiser's red light washed across the fog-wet pier planking, and two uniforms stepped through the swinging door. Thin pre-dawn light filtered through Harburg across the Pier 12 apron. The night watchman stood with his flashlight beam low, breath fogging over the radio at his collar. Two uniforms strung crime scene tape across the dockmaster office doorway. Amber emergency lights pulsed in slow sweeps over the container stacks. A gurney waited on the planking beside the open door. Wheels braked against the fog-wet boards. Nothing inside the office had moved since the watchman's loop brought him back at 22:52. Nox stepped from the unmarked sedan at the Pier 12 gate, charcoal peacoat buttoned against the harbor cold. His analog wristwatch turned face inside. Leen followed with her department tablet, breath misting as she fell in beside him. She handed him the call sheet. Retrospective work, she said. First responders had Moss at 22:52. Nox did not answer. He was already watching the fog thin off the pier lights. The harbor mouth nothing more than a smear of red running color. The dockmaster office held the stale metal smell of morning harbor and copper blood. Halden Moss lay face up beside the desk, reading glasses knocked to the floorboards. The brass shipping scale rested on its side at his hip, its counterweight bar stained dark. On the wall to the left, a bank of CCTV monitors looped previous night footage in 4-panel tile. Pier apron and foreman desk still played on the bottom right tile. Nox stepped past the body without disturbing the scale, eyes moving from desk lamp to monitor and back. The PD morgue at 07:30. Doctor. Iona Hayles slid the mortuary drawer out and rotated Moss's left forearm. She paused, lowered her glasses a half-inch down her nose, and delivered the finding without inflection. Single blow, posterior parietal. The counterweight consistent with the brass scale. Time of death 22:45 to 22:50. Tight. Speculation, Nox asked. Speculation was his job, she said, and clicked the clipboard hinge closed. The drawer rolled back into the cold wall. Captain Odette Brennan's office at 8:10. Rectangular tortoiseshell glasses caught the green shade of her desk lamp. Her olive drab jacket pressed flat at the shoulders. Dark walnut cane leaning against her chair. She pressed her thumb into her palm once before she spoke. A customs inspector dead on a Pier 12 container terminal. She wanted clean paper on any CCTV subpoena before end of day. Leen had the warrant draft ready on her tablet. Brennan signed without reading, told him to bring her a name, not a headline. Rook worked the evidence locker intake bench in black latex gloves, and a Navy Department polo, tagging the archive card pulled from the dockmaster's CCTV controller. If it was not in the bag, it did not happen, he muttered. The brass scale, the blood swab, the pier apron still from the monitor tile. He logged each item and turned away mid-sentence to check the card reader's checksum. Nox watched the splice detection progress bar crawl across Rook's terminal. Interview room 1. Mira Vance sat with her oatmeal wool cardigan buttoned against the precinct cold. Auburn hair clipped back. Round tortoiseshell glasses settled low. She folded her hands on the table. She had locked up at 22:15, she said. Shuttle at 22:18. Home by 22:55. Her husband awake to confirm it. Leen noted the times. Moss and she had not been close, Vance added, but he had been fair. He had not deserved whatever the scale had done. A case file card slid in over an establishing shot of Vance at her dockmaster desk earlier in the week. Auburn hair clipped back. The shuttle schedule pinned to the wall behind her. The card listed her name, her title, her relationship to Moss as workplace peer, and the one-line alibi she had given in the interview room. Nox studied the card as it settled on frame. Nothing on it asked to be doubted yet. Suspect, Mira Vance. Stated alibi. Clocked out at 22:15. Shuttle to Old Harrow. Home with husband by 22:55. Inferred opportunity, none. Shuttle manifest corroborates. The pier night watchman from the Pier 7 ledger case returned as material witness. Gray watch cap pulled low, heavy donkey jacket. Thermos of coffee at the bench. He recognized Nox and nodded once. He had seen Moss go in at about 22:35, he said. Moss had walked past him at the gate. The fog was already thick by then. He could hardly see the crane lights from his post. He marked it on his round sheet. The watchman pressed for specifics. Fog had rolled in around 22:10, he said. He remembered because he had switched on the fog bank flag at the gate siren. You did not see the harbor mouth once that bank settled. Not until dawn. Nox's left forefinger tapped once against his thumb. Leen wrote the time down. The Port Authority atmospheric log sat rolled at Nox's elbow on the gate office table, its right margin column ticking off zero visibility entries every 15 minutes from 22:12 through dawn. He had not yet unrolled it. Ashvale Port Authority Records Office, fluorescent lit. A clerk slid the overnight atmospheric log across the counter on thermal paper. The 2212 entry read Fog Bank Roll-in Pier 12's Vs, with 2 red margin flags for harbor light refraction. The bank persisted line after line through every 15-minute interval to dawn. Nox ran a left-handed finger down the column. Leen photographed the sheet on her tablet. The paper was the same width as the printout already sitting in the gate office. Interview room 2. Perry Kade leaned back in his slate blue Pier foreman coat, the high-vis armband still strapped at his bicep. Broad shoulders settled into the chair. He had been at his desk from 22:30 till the shift ended, he said. Loading sheet was a mess. They could pull the dockmaster CCTV. They would have him on the pier apron tile the whole time. Nox repeated the last 3 words flat. The whole time. Kade did not blink. The chair did not creak. A case file card slid in over an establishing shot of Kade at the pier apron foreman desk mid-shift, the high-vis armband catching the yard floodlights. A radio clipped at his shoulder. The card listed his name, his title as pier foreman, his relationship to Moss as operational pier, and the alibi he had just given. Leen pinned the card print to the corkboard beside Vance's. 2 suspects on the board. The night was still young. Suspect, Perry Kade. Stated alibi. At the pier apron foreman desk from 22:30 to 23:10. CCTV archive places him there at 22:47. Inferred opportunity 22:45 to 22:50 window if CCTV misreads. Back at the dockmaster office, Nox and Leen scrubbed the archive playback to the 22:47 stamp. Kade sat upright at the pier apron foreman desk on the bottom right monitor tile. Behind him, the dockyard glass held the container stacks sharp and clean, harbor mouth lights picking out the far cranes without distortion. The top left tile held a matching pier gate shot, and the air in that frame was thick white fog. Leen froze the image. The glass behind him is clear, she said. Nox said nothing yet. Leen pulled Kade's personnel file on her tablet in the gate office bay. 4 years on the pier security cameras before the foreman promotion, she read aloud. Trained on archive injection for the CCTV controller manual, certified twice. 2 redacted grievances with Customs Inspector Moss in the last 18 months over Pier 12 manifest shortfalls. Both closed, no action. Nox turned his watch face out and back to face in. A beat. Then he nodded once and filed the line away in the part of his head that kept patterns. Leen slid a keycard reader log across the bullpen desk. The Vance swipe at 22:35 was circled in red pen. She had said 22:15. She had been on the shuttle by then. Nox read the swipe line twice. Pull the shuttle manifest, he said. If she was on it, her card was here without her. Leen was already dialing the dispatcher at Old Harrow, the receiver tucked into her shoulder. The precinct's rear lot held a gray overcast. Rook crouched at the open trunk of Olin Strake's sedan black latex gloves, tweezers picking at the corner of a blue nitrile glove that poked out from the spare tire well. Blood on the thumb web, he said, still not looking up. Partial impression matched the scale counterweight. No interior driver's side prints on the glove itself, though. Leen's brow furrowed. Planted, she murmured. Nox said nothing. He was already looking past the car toward the precinct door. Olin Strake sat forward in the interview chair, slate gray suit, burgundy tie loosened. He had left the pier gate at 22:02, he said. Taxi receipt in his wallet. Harbor Front Diner across from Pier 7 from 22:15 to 22:55. The cook there had poured his coffee twice. He pulled the receipt from his satchel. Leen checked the timestamps against the gate guard log. Strake's face was open and tired, not cornered. He answered each question on the first ask. A case file card slid in over a Pier 12 gate pass photograph of Strake from earlier in the week, slate gray suit and leather work satchel, the Harbor Front Diner visible across the street in the background. The card listed his name, his role as harbor insurance adjuster, his relationship to Moss as professional acquaintance, and the alibi he had just provided. Nox pinned it beside Kade's on the corkboard. 3 suspects up, none struck through yet. Rook at the evidence bench confirmed the taxi receipt timestamp, the diner counter cook's handwritten ticket, and the CCTV, still from the diner at 22:47, showing Strake's slate gray shoulder visible in the booth corner. No possible window, he said. Strake had not driven back. Nox asked who had access to his trunk. Strake had left the sedan at the pier employee lot until 11. Leen said. Anyone could have planted the glove. The case card updated with a cleared stamp across the bottom corner. Leen ran the clerkroom punch log on the bullpen monitor. Bryn Callis in at 22:00, no punch-out for the break window. The restroom access door logged at 22:22 and again at 22:48. 30 minutes unaccounted for in the clerkroom itself. Nox watched the gap on screen. the empty cells in the punch column standing out against the surrounding rows. Pull her in, he said. Leen reached for the desk phone. Bryn Callis looked pale even under the interview room lamp, amber-tinted safety glasses pushed up on her platinum blonde crop, orange high-vis vest over a gray thermal shirt. She had been in the restroom from 22:20 till 22:50, she said. Food poisoning. The attendant had seen her come back shaking. She had not punched the clerk log because she had been hugging a toilet, not checking a time clock. Leen's expression softened by a fraction. She made a note beside Callis's name. She had remembered the cramp hitting her at the clerk desk at 10:20 and the sprint to the pier restroom down the fog-wet concrete walk. The attendant had been there reading a paperback and had looked up as she passed. She had hugged the cold tile for nearly 30 minutes before her stomach let her stand. The walk back had felt longer than the walk out, the fog thicker, the gate siren flag barely visible from the restroom door. She had returned to the clerk desk shivering at about 22:50. Leen opened Moss's inbox drawer at the customs annex and lifted out a folded sheet of rival shipping letterhead. The typed note read back off the Pier 12 audit, unsigned, no prints, no return routing. Mara at the Courier had a tip on this company 2 months ago. Leen said, an aggressive lot, but they postured through paper, not through scales. Nox read the sheet twice. Plausible, he said. Not plausible enough. The letterhead went into an evidence sleeve. Basement forensic audio bench at PDHQ. 2 monitors showing waveform and pixel histogram diffs across the dockmaster CCTV archive. Rook Cho did not look up. There was a seam, he said. 2246 to 2248. Pixel noise pattern jumped hard. The clip had been injected from an earlier recording of the same desk angle. Timestamp forged on the header. If it was not in the bag, it did not happen. The bag now said the bottom right tile at 2247 was pre-recorded. Nox's watch hand tapped once against his wrist. Fog moved along the apron. The flag lifted once. The bullpen at night. Nox stood at Leen's desk. The Port Authority weather log unrolled across the blotter under a green-shaded lamp. He ran his finger down the 2212 entry, then to 2247, then back. Leen looked up from her tablet. It was the same sheet Rook had run against the CCTV pixel diff, she said. The fog was in every 15-minute line. Nox repeated the last 3 words flat. 15-minute line. He did not need to say the rest. Customs Annex records room. Archive boxes of Pier 12 outbound manifests. Leen lifted the 2247 stamped sheet from the box and tilted it into the desk lamp. The paper fibers were swollen around the rubber stamp impression. The ink bled into a soft, wet halo. That stamp had hit paper already breathing fog, Len said. Nox nodded once. Bag it, he said. It was going next to the CCTV still on the corkboard. Leen sealed the sleeve with a quiet snap. Harborfront diner across from Pier 7. Corner booth. Rain-fogged window. Amber counter lamps. Arden Quill sat with his hands folded on the table. Wire-rim bifocals, low on his nose. Oatmeal cardigan over a flannel work shirt. He did not open his notebook. Nox slid the CCTV still and the weather log onto the table between them. Quill waited 1 full beat before he looked up. He pronounced Nox's name with the soft terminal consonant nobody else at the precinct used. Walk me through what you have. Quill listened the whole way through. He folded his hands tighter, thumb on knuckle, and waited another full beat. Nox was asking whether the killer had wanted to be seen, he said. He told Nox to ask what the killer had not wanted seen instead. Nox held his gaze, said nothing. Quill did not press. He turned his coffee cup a quarter turn and looked past Nox toward the rain-fogged window. The pier lights smeared soft. He did not speculate further. That was not the reframing he had come to give. Back in the bullpen, Nox opened Halden Moss's pocket inspector notebook and turned to the ringed page. Pier 12 shortfalls in Moss's careful hand. 3 manifest numbers. The initial PK written in black ink beside each. Nox laid the page next to the ink-smudged 2247 manifest and the fog log. The manifest numbers on Moss's notebook and the archive box labels matched, he said. Leen pulled a chair around and read over his shoulder. The page sat between them like a small loaded hinge. Leen read aloud from the customs personnel file. 22 years on the docks, she said. Married. 2 adult children in Old Harrow. Colleagues had described him as fair, slow to speak, quick to check a number twice. The internal audit officer who had been expecting his walk-in the next morning had already emailed asking why Moss had not shown. Nox listened without interrupting. A beat of silence between them. He closed the notebook and set it back on the desk. Leen came back from the dispatcher's office with a handwritten statement. Vance had lent her card to Callis at 2212 because Callis had needed to run the outbound manifest across to the shipping office after hours, and the clerk card did not open that lock. The 2235 swipe was callous at the dockmaster office door. The dispatcher remembered her asking. Nox nodded. 2 red herrings down. He did not need to say it out loud for Leen to write it on the board. Interview room 2. Kade back in the chair, arms still crossed. Nox set the CCTV still, and the weather logs side by side on the table, then laid the ink-smudged manifest across them. He said nothing for a long beat, turning the silver signet ring once on his left hand. Tell me again about the fog, he said. Kade glanced at the weather log and back to Nox. What about it, he said. His left shoulder tightened a fraction. The word fog came late by half a second. Leen reviewed Kade's last 18 months in the bullpen after Kade was walked back to holding. 2 manifest shortfalls attributed to Pier 12 slots in the last quarter alone, she said. Both closed internal no action after a phone call from a senior voice that nobody could log. Nox's watch hand went still for a beat. He did not say the name. He filed the pattern beside the others he was already keeping in the part of his head he never wrote down. The bullpen corkboard at night. Nox pinned the fog weather log at the top, the CCTV still dead center, and the ink-smudged 2247 manifest below. 3 red pins connected them in a short descending line. Moss's notebook, the brass scale photograph, and Kade's dossier hung to the right. Leen stood back, arms folded, and read the whole face of the board once without speaking. The shape of the case held under the lamplight. Nox crossed out the 4 red herrings in red pen on a separate index sheet, one by one. Strake's blue nitrile glove, planted by a hand that had access to his employee lot trunk. Vance's keycard, lent to Callis for the outbound manifest run. Callis's punch-out gap, a restroom emergency corroborated by the Pier attendant. The anonymous rival shipper note. A paper threat from a firm that had never escalated past paper. 4 clean crossouts. Leen nodded once. None of them was the lever the case turned on. Captain Brennan's office. Early evening. She read Nox's memo in the lamplight and pressed her thumb into her palm once before she spoke. The weather log, the CCTV seam, the manifest ink bleed. That was a clean paper trail. She told him to bring Kade in for the deduction. If he so much as brushed an international transit slot before custody was signed, she wanted Nox on the pier. Understood, Nox said. Leen was already packing the box. Minutes don't lie. People do. Nox stood at the bullpen board and walked the window from 2200 to 2300. Moss began rounds. Fog rolled in at 2212. The watchman saw Moss enter the dockmaster office at 2235. The spliced archive clip claimed Kade at his desk at 2247, with clear air through the dockyard glass. The outbound manifest was stamped at 2247 with wet fog ink bleed inside that office. The watchman returned at 2252 and found the body. One event in that window was a lie. The Misaki. The fog arrived at 2212 and held until dawn. The CCTV archive placed Kade at the foreman desk at 2247 with clean air behind him. That air could not exist. The manifest stamped that minute inside the dockmaster office bled ink on fog-wet fibers. Only one man had archive injection training, dockmaster keycard access, and a motive inked in Moss's notebook. Vance lent her card. Callis was sick. Strake was planted on. Perry Kade spliced himself into a minute that never happened because he was inside swinging the brass scale at Moss. Captain Brennan signed the custody warrant across the bullpen desk. The signature was clean and quick. Leen grabbed her coat. Nox was already at the precinct door, keys in hand. The drive to Pier 12 at this hour was 15 minutes in clear weather. The fog tonight was thinner than the night of the killing, but still thick enough to smear the harbormouth lights into pale blurs over the black water. Brennan watched them go without speaking. Pier 12 gate at night. The unmarked sedan rolled to a stop. Nox was out of the car first. Leen on the passenger side. The watchman looked up from his coffee thermos and frowned. Kade had punched out 40 minutes ago, he said. Said he had a manifest to clear at the shipping office. He did not look at Nox when he said it. Nox's watch hand was already still. The fog along the apron held its line. The Pier apron foreman desk was unlit. The radio clipped to the chair arm was quiet. Kade's high-vis armband lay across the desk next to a cold cup of coffee. Leen scanned the room with her flashlight and shook her head. He was not there, she said. Nox picked up the armband and turned it once between his fingers. Pull the outbound manifest log, he said. Anything cleared in the last hour. Leen was already on her tablet. Leen pulled the tablet up under the crane lights. One cleared slot, she said. International transit, Pier 12, northbound freighter bound for a Baltic flag port. Scheduled out 2300. Pre-cleared customs under a foreman sign-off. The sign-off was P. Kade at 22:15 tonight. Nox looked past the cranes at the harbor mouth where a set of red running lights was already moving out on the black water. The fog ate the running lights as he watched. Leen was on the phone with the harbor master in under a minute. The freighter had cleared the harbor buoy at 22:52, she said into the receiver. Flag jurisdiction hit at the 12-mile line. Coast Guard intercept on open water without a sign bilateral, she repeated. The receiver going quiet for a long beat. She closed her eyes briefly. Understood. She lowered the phone. She did not need to say it. The freighter was past reach. Brennan's voice came through Nox's handheld radio from the precinct. Hold where you are, she said. No pursuit on open water without a jurisdiction signed by a government that was not answering at this hour. Nox acknowledged. Her tone was flat but not cold. She had been on the other side of this call before. He understood the distinction. The radio went quiet at his hip and the fog kept moving across the planking. Leen stepped over to Nox at the pier rail. He had not moved since the freighter lights crossed the buoy line. She did not say anything for a long moment. Her hand half reached toward his forearm and stopped before it landed. He had not wanted to be seen at his desk, she said finally. Nox's voice was lower than usual. He had not wanted to be seen in the office. Quill had asked the right question. Rook chose voice over the radio, flat, already turning away from his bench. Pixel diff was in the bag. Manifest ink chromatography was in the bag. Weather log was certified. If it was not in the bag, it did not happen, but all of it was in the bag. The problem was the man who had swung the scale was not. He was international waters now, beyond a paper warrant Brennan had signed in good faith. The bullpen later that night, Brennan hung a case-closed stamp on Leen's desk next to the Moss file. The paper said the case was solved. Perry Kade was named. Charged. Warrant issued. The flag of convenience treaty did not have extradition on this category of offense. It might be months before a second flag port detained him. It might be years. Nox signed his name on the cover sheet. His hand was steady. He did not push the file away when he finished. Later still, Nox drove back to Pier 12 alone. The gate siren flag hung limp. The dockmaster office was dark behind taped-off glass. He stood at the rail for a long beat. He did not take out his notebook. He did not take out his watch. He just watched the harbor mouth where the freighter lights no longer were. The fog kept its slow, patient shape over the black water, and the boards under his feet held still. The reveal landed not in a courtroom, but on open water. The freighter steamed north in cold harbor fog, its red running lights small against the dark. Perry Kade stood on the aft deck in a heavy gray parka, sandy hair catching the wind, a forged passport in his interior pocket. The harbor shrank behind him. He did not look back. He did not look happy either. The wake of the ship widened slow and white below the railing. Nox was back at the Pier 12 rail in the hour after. The fog had thickened again with the night. The harbor mouth lights smeared soft. He leaned on the rail with both forearms. His watch was still face inside on his left wrist. He had not moved for a long beat. He had not said anything. The case file in his jacket pocket said closed, but he knew what it weighed. Asen Mason Achievers, and what it did not. Leen's car pulled up at the gate behind him. She walked out onto the pier boards in her navy blazer no coat, the paperwork for the extradition filing folded in one hand. She stopped beside him at the rail and did not speak right away. She set the paperwork down on the rail between them. The silence sat a beat longer than procedure needed. She did not fill it. The harbor wind moved between them without comment. The wind off the harbor picked up. Leen did not shiver, but she did not have to. Nox lifted his charcoal peacoat off his shoulders and draped it wordlessly across hers. He did not look at her when he did it. She did not thank him. The coat settled. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. It was the small, unspoken beat this case was going to give them. Sitting between two people who were not going to name it, he had not escaped because he was smarter, Leen said finally. He had escaped because the shipping slot was already pre-cleared for him. Nox did not answer at first. Someone had cleared it, he said. Not tonight. Weeks ago. This had not been improvised. Leen looked at him sideways. The question she did not ask was the one a careful listener would already be hearing under the rail wind. Nox did not answer that one either. Down the pier at his gate post, the night watchman finished his thermos and looked once up at Nox at the rail. He did not say anything. He lifted his coffee lid an inch in acknowledgement and turned back to his post. The gesture read like a man who had seen harbor business get away before more than once and had learned the shape of the thing without needing to name it on a witness sheet. Leen slid the extradition filing closer to Nox across the rail. He had a hearing on this in 3 weeks, she said. The signature she wanted was his. He took the fountain pen from his inner pocket and signed without reading the box text. His signature was level. Neither of them mentioned Kade again. There was nothing left to mention tonight. The paper went back into her coat with a quiet fold. and she stepped half a pace down the rail. After Leen had gone, Nox stayed at the pier rail alone. He pulled a folded Port Authority weather log printout from his coat pocket and turned it once in his hands. The 2212 line was still ringed in red. The freighter lights were gone from the harbor mouth. The fog was settling back in. He did not put the log away. He held it at his side and watched the empty dark water move past the boards.